Welcome to Studying Law Around the World. I'm Claudio Klaus. In each episode, I talk with lawyers, law students, and professors from different parts of the world to talk about legal education, careers, and what the profession looks like in real life. We talk about the hard parts, the surprises, and the decisions that shaped their paths. Whether you're planning to study abroad, thinking about working in another legal system, or just curious about how law works around the world, this podcast is for you.
So many of the guests on this podcast have talked about how important it is to have strong writing skills as a lawyer. It's true, written communication is essential in this profession, but it can also be one of the trickiest skills to master. If you find your writing feels a bit clunky, or you're getting a lot of edits on your work, or perhaps you're breaking into an English speaking jurisdiction for the first time, Grammatica International can help. I'm Rebecca Lockwood, the lawyer, mediator, and educator behind Grammatica, and we help lawyers and law students to write more sharply, speak more clearly, and advance their careers with group training and one-on-one skills coaching designed just for legal professionals. I have worked with so many lawyers like you who are exceptionally smart, qualified, and capable, but need a bit of guidance to stand out in a competitive legal market. And I get it myself, having lived and worked in 5 countries during my 17 years in law and education. Whether you're looking to sharpen your writing skills generally, refresh your CV, or draft an application for a law program, Grammatica can help. Visit grammatica.co to learn more.
Today, I have the opportunity to host Neil Montgomery. He is a graduate of the University of São Paulo in Brazil, where he studied both bachelor's of laws and a master's in international law. He was admitted to the bar in Brazil in 97 and has since worked in different law firms, has worked in an English law firm, and he's now the founder and CEO of his own firm, Montgomery. So I wanted to thank you so much for coming to the podcast, for being willing to join us today. Neil, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Claudia. It's a pleasure to be here.
Really appreciate it. And to start our interview today, I'd love for you to introduce yourself to our audience. So I just had a few highlights, but I'm sure that there's a lot more where that comes from.
Okay, well, certainly. Despite my name, I am Brazilian. I was born in Rio de Janeiro. My father is from Scotland. My mother was Brazilian. They met in São Paulo in the 70s, and I'm therefore dual national. I'm both Brazilian because I was born in Brazil, but my dad being British, I also have a British passport. I have lived in the UK twice in my life. When I was a kid, I lived a few months in a place called Solihull, just outside of Birmingham in England, and then 3 years in Aberdeen, Scotland. That's where maybe I acquired a little bit of a Scottish accent, which sticks to this date. And then during my adult life, I also lived and worked in London as a lawyer, as a foreign associate. And so I left Brazil when I was 4, returned when I was 14. After Scotland, I lived 6 years in Lima, Peru. So that's where I learned Spanish as well. So I've been around a little bit. And I think the fact that I have traveled internationally has prepared me to be an international lawyer. And that's what I do nowadays. And Montgomery, which, as you said, is the law firm I founded here in São Paulo, specializes in advising foreign clients doing business in Brazil. So the fact that I moved around, learned several languages, and have a dual nationality prepared me to do what I do today.
Amazing. And as we were speaking in preparation for this podcast, I've heard a few of your interviews in the past, and I've really followed your career with a lot of enthusiasm. And I've heard a very interesting story about, early in your career when you were working for a Brazilian firm and you got the chance to travel to London and basically you made that experience. So I'd love to hear a little more about that experience. And I think our audience would really appreciate that one.
Sure. It wasn't so early in my career. It was around, I think, 2006. So next year, 20th anniversary, therefore. And I had already been a lawyer for nearly 10 years because, as you said, I enrolled with the bar in São Paulo in 1997, graduated in 1996. So it was around about 10 years. I was at the time a very senior associate at a large Brazilian law firm, and I was about to become an equity partner. And at the time, I knew that to become an equity partner, I needed to have a client base. So the way that I devised to start getting my own clients was to put on what I called the London Roadshow. The firm I worked with at the time always been more inclined with North America, especially the United States, and had not looked so closely to Europe. A few years earlier, when I was working for an English law firm in London, I had the experience for the first time of working as an international lawyer at a major firm. I made lots of good contacts. When I returned to Brazil, and then I moved to this other firm, I said, now is the time to maybe look not to North America, but to Europe more closely and specifically to London. Not only because I had worked in London, because also I've always seen London as probably the main international center for legal services in the world. So definitely London was going to be a very good place to try and, let's say, harvest maybe the first seeds planted several years ago. So at the time, I went to the managing partner of the firm I was. I asked for $1,000 budget for 1 week in London to visit law firms in the city of London. Those law firms tend to be quite large firms and they have a lot of international practice. So what I did was to access the websites of each of those law firms, identify who was the managing partner or who was the partner responsible for their international practice, introduce myself, who I was, who the firm was, what we did, and to see whether they would have 45 minutes to an hour to see me. So when I went to the managing partner and asked for this $5,000 budget, several weeks passed after then, and there was no response. And so, more or less after a month, I went up to him and said, do we have a response from the board? And he said, well, the board is a bit skeptic. They don't really believe in the outcomes of these types of exercises. We've done them in the past, and they haven't produced the clients that we want. And so it's a bit difficult maybe to get this approved at the board. Well, I turned to him then, and I think he must have been quite surprised with what I had to say. And I said, look, no problem. I have my annual leave coming up. I'll take a week of my holidays and I will self-fund myself. I'll take $5,000 from my bank account, and I'm sure that I'll make this happen. And so I think he must have been quite surprised with the determination I had. And when I contacted these law firms, because I had a tight budget, right? I would send an email introducing myself, introducing the firm, and I would give them a specific date and a specific time that I would like them to welcome me to their offices, because I was going to do everything using the London Underground. And so I would do it per region every day. So I had more or less like I got a big map of London, the city of London. I pinpointed where all the law firms were, and then I managed to confirm. I think there were 8 meetings per day, every day for 5 days. At the time, this is going back to 2006, or well before the pandemic, everybody was working at the office, not working from home. So I managed to pack in 40 meetings at 40 different law firms in London. Everyone welcomed me exceptionally well. Most of them had told me that it was the first time ever that a Brazilian lawyer had literally knocked on their door. And so they were very interested in knowing more about myself, knowing more about my firm. And I showed that we had a sophisticated practice, that the common denominator that I had with the people who welcomed me was, of course, the British nationality as well, and the language and the cultural ties. And I know that when I got to Wednesday in the middle of the week, I had walked so much, Claudio, but so much up and down stairs and the underground and the streets of London that my feet were literally in blisters. And I remember arriving back at the hotel. I had reserved a well-located but a 3-star apart hotel style hotel. And I took out all the bandages and had to bandage my feet because of the blisters. But the next 2 days, Thursday and Friday, I made it with a little bit of pain, of course, but I made it to all my meetings. And when I returned over the weekend back to São Paulo, I returned with the sensation of mission accomplished. And this happened not very quickly, but in the months following, maybe in the 12 months following my trip to London, I got many referrals from many of the law firms I had visited. And while I believe I didn't spend $5,000 at the end because I was very economical, after 1 year, the referrals I received had generated about $50,000 in terms of legal fees. So I proved my point that I was capable of obtaining clients the Monty way, just going out there and knocking on the doors and really doing it wholeheartedly. Years later, when I left the firm, my client portfolio was already worth millions. And that allowed me to take the even bolder step of setting up my own law firm because I already had a very good client base. So, it's something that I did 20 years ago. I'm 51 today, so I just turned 30. So very, very, let's say, early in one's life, professional life. But I think it was one of the best decisions I ever took because I'm here now today with my own firm because I planted those seeds back then. And I really was determined. I was resilient. I was methodical. I was consistent because year after year, I also returned to London to visit not only the same firms, but other new firms during my journey as well. And that is what allowed me to plant the seeds for a future firm with my own name.
That's amazing. What a story. I'm genuinely happy to get to listen to it and to get to have it here in the podcast because it's just incredible what you did there. And more and more in the last few episodes, I actually spoke to different lawyers about different approaches to business
Uh-huh.
development. And oftentimes we'll be very, we'll hear about a few different tips, and people will say very, low involvement kind of tips of how to do business development. Be saying, nurture your relationships, reach out to people that you've talked in the past, update them, and let them know what you're doing these days. But I love this approach of actually going and meeting with people and having a roadshow, as you said. I love that.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear a little bit about, if you could advise a young lawyer in 2025 in regards to business development, to really building that network and book of business, what
Mhm.
would you suggest?
Well, I think one thing I've learned in over or nearly 30 years of lawyering, I think the key word is visibility. If there's one word and one tip I would give any lawyer or any professional is for you to have visibility. Nowadays, potentially to have visibility, it may be a bit easier with all the technologies we have, social media, video conferences. I think it's potentially easier to scale visibility. Back in the day, 20 years ago, visibility meant knocking on doors, as you saw. But I think visibility is, especially if you want to have an international career, is what makes you stand out. And you must stand out not only because you're visible, but you're visible for the best reasons, of course. So you have to be visible because you are seen as a very good professional in what you do. So somebody who knows what you're doing, somebody who is reliable, who can be trusted, somebody who is nice as well, because people like doing business with people they like. So I think you need to show yourself as somebody who is a nice person, an interesting person, who has humble as well. I think you need to be humble always, every time, regardless of what pinnacles you reach in your career. I think you need to always maintain your feet on the ground and be humble and be grateful for all the achievements you've made over your career. So visibility for me has meant visiting firms, clients around the world. I do travel quite extensively. It has also meant speaking at conferences, writing books, writing articles, recording podcasts, and other types of videos. This weekend, for example, I have an article to write on the developments of gaming law in Brazil, which is one of my practice areas. So I'm going to use the time that my wife and my eldest daughter, they're going to show in São Paulo tomorrow, and I'll be staying at home writing my article. So one thing also that I can give as a tip is that nothing comes free. Everything takes a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of investment. So one thing that I think I see is a bit difficult for the younger generations is this, that things do take a lot of effort and take time. There are no shortcuts. If you want a really well, long lasting career, it's something that takes time. And visibility is something that, of course, ultimately you achieve. You have to keep it as well. You cannot, let's say, simply rest on your laurels. You have to continue doing it. You have to be consistent. You have to be focused. You have to be determined. So it is it does make life very intense. And I think another thing is to have balance in one's life, not only professionally, but personally as well. So, despite I have always worked a lot, but I've always dedicated a lot of time as well to my family. I have a wife, I have two daughters. You can see the photographs of them when they were much younger behind me. I've been married now for 25 years. My eldest daughter is 21. My youngest is 17, approaching 18. And I think being a good husband, a good father, teaching good stuff to our kids and being present really makes a difference as well. While I do work a lot and my family knows that and really has supported me all along, they also know that when I'm with them as well. So I think having balance both in your personal life and your professional life does make a difference. You do need to excel in your profession, in your career, you do need to have full support from home.
Fantastic. Those are really good piece of advice here. Talking about leadership and really building your own firm as well.
Mm.
I'd love to hear a little more about that thought process. So you said that, building that book of business, you were already a senior lawyer, so you definitely knew you already had the clients, you already had the knowledge of the law as well. But were there a few, specific things that you learned as you were building your firm and now as well as you continue to lead it? Are there a few specific approaches that you are methodical on continuing to improve your practice? What are some of your thoughts on that?
Okay. Well, going just back to the roadshow, in order for you to be a good salesperson, you need to know your stuff. So you need to know what you're selling. So in order to be a good sales lawyer, you need to be a good lawyer in the first place. Working with foreign clients has really made me have a very broad practice. So nowadays, while I started as a corporate M&A lawyer at a large Brazilian firm back in 1996 when I was graduating from law school, working with foreign clients doing business in Brazil really helped me enlarge the scope of work I do. So nowadays it's not only corporate contracts, it's also M&A, litigation, employment, tax, IP, and other specialisms that I also over the years developed in, for example, the aviation law and gaming law, as in gambling. So I think being a well rounded lawyer, knowing the law, it's easier for you to sell your services. And this led also to a business model that I nicknamed and branded Lean Full Service, where with less lawyers, you can provide a full service to your clients because each lawyer practices at least two or three areas of law. I here at the firm get involved in all areas, and that has given me a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, and this is the heart of what I call lean full service. It's like a general counsel in private practice where you are not only superficial in the areas you know well, you are a specialist. So I can sit down at a table after being a lawyer for nearly 30 years, as I said, and discuss several different legal topics on a par with lawyers from other firms that are specialists in their area. And so I think that has made me a very good salesperson as well because I know what I'm talking about. And here at the firm, when I founded Montgomery in 2013 under the lean full service model, that has given us a very good case study and a lot of success because companies nowadays, they all operate under tighter budgets. They want a personalized service and they want a cheaper service. So, with less cost, because we increase efficiencies by having less lawyers do the full service, we can be more personalized, we can be more cost effective as well. And so that unites both of the factors needed for a firm like ours to succeed. We are now past our 12th anniversary. Next year we'll turn 13, and hopefully there'll be many years to come. And as the leader of the firm, if there's something that I always like to do is to lead by example. I'm the top biller and I have been for many years. So despite all the traveling, all the business development, all the management, everything, I have still kept myself at the top of my internal ranking here, being the top biller in terms of billable hours. And I like to inspire the younger generation and those who work alongside me to do the same. I'm always here early. I'm one of the first to arrive in the morning one of the last to leave. Practically every day I continue at home as well after dinner with my family. But it's the resilience, the consistency that gets you to the top. So um, I have obtained the knowledge, I've obtained, let's say, the experience, and I like to lead by example. So I want everyone who is working with me see, well, if Neil, as the managing partner, can do everything he does, then there's no excuse for me not to do the same, right? And life is intense. I agree with that, but that's what makes life very rewarding as well. I've met so many different people from around the world, many interesting people like yourself, Claudio, who told me a little bit about your background before we started this podcast. And I think if you are a good person and you do whatever you can do to do good, to at least from your own perspective, make the world a better place, I think that's what makes the difference. And I believe that if you do good, good comes back to you as well. And I have been grateful over the years, doing the good and transforming people's lives, because that is also something that I believe Montgomery will leave as a legacy. Very well known in the market. It can be a problem sometimes because headhunters like to pick on our colleagues, but they know that whoever has worked at Montgomery is going to be a hell of a good lawyer because we take the time, the patience to train and to prepare lawyers for the legal market, not only in Brazil, but worldwide. So I am very proud of our legacy in transforming and very positively people's lives professionally. And not only that, our firm has always been predominantly female, and female lawyers have thrived in their careers here. They have become mothers as well. Some have had one, two, or even more children. And this has been, let's say, a safe birth for them to grow their families because life as a lawyer in a full service law firm can be very, very daunting, very difficult. And I'm glad to say here that we may be an oasis within the legal market in Brazil and specifically in São Paulo, which is probably one of the toughest in Brazil because of the, let's say, the balance you have in your life, both in and out of the firm. So that is also something very positive that I'm very proud of here at Montgomery. I have one equity partner who is a female labor and employment lawyer, Driel. She has had her child as well. She may be thinking of having another one in the near future. And we're very proud of what we can leave, not only in terms of the professional changes we can make to one's life, but the personal changes as well.
Amazing. Wow, that's quite inspiring to hear. And going forward here to wrap up today's episode, actually, I wanted to hear a little more about that continuance of business development. So you've shared your incredible story. You've shared some about your leadership style and how you do a business model in your firm. And
Mhm.
I'd love to hear a little more about also how do you, once you have new clients, once you deliver exceptional work, and then how do you keep client relationships? And I say that from a perspective of somebody who's beginning in the
Mhm.
profession. So I also thought I'd mention our main audience of the podcast are either law students or early career
Okay.
professionals.
Okay.
So it's a lot of us that didn't have yet the opportunity to see a lot of transactions from beginning to end year after year. But I'd love to hear a little more about your thoughts on maintaining those relationships to after the first legal service is off.
Yeah. I gauge success, Claudio, in terms of relationships. I think if you're successful in the relationships and you build strong relationships internally and externally, that is how you measure success. And it is tough to keep any relationship, whether it be within your family, within your friendships, within your business community. Relationships, they're difficult to maintain because they demand time, they demand effort, they demand a certain donation on the part of the people belonging to the relationship. So, not everyone has the patience potentially to dedicate themselves as they should to any sort of relationship. And we're happy to say that here at the firm, we now have over 1,000 clients. 90% are multinational companies, and each relationship with each client is as important to us as any other. It's not because a client is bringing $1,000 or $1,000,000 that the relationship will be different. We use the passion we have in the same degree to provide the best possible legal services to each individual client, each one of those 1,000 clients. And we like to make them special and feel special, not only because they have a dedicated client partner to always oversee the work that is being done. The client partner may not be the person, of course, for obvious reasons, doing all the work, because that's why we have other lawyers and other teams. But there will always be one partner to hold the hand of the client within the firm and to give the comfort to that client that everything is in order, everything is progressing, and everything is being overseen. And when clients visit us as well, physically here in São Paulo to our offices in Vila Olímpia, we also welcome them in a different manner. We have a television in our reception where, in several languages, we welcome the person who is visiting us, and also we include the name. We include the name of the company as well. So from the very moment the person steps foot at Montgomery, the receptionist and the infrastructure will already provide a more welcoming environment for that client. And this is what we like to do throughout the legal services we provide. Not only all lawyers, and even the most senior lawyers like myself, are always involved. I always take a lot of care to be present at video conferences, to be available for my clients. Even though I'm traveling internationally, I'm just one WhatsApp message away, one email, one telephone away. And I think when you do things with passion, wholeheartedly as we do, nothing is difficult. Everything is easy, right? It won't be a strain on you if you do things with passion. And I think if you dedicate yourself wholeheartedly to your clients will appreciate that, and they will be your long standing clients. So for those students who are about to graduate from university, if there's one tip I can give besides everything I've said so far, is to do everything wholeheartedly with passion without expecting anything in return. And you'll see that people will remember you. Your reputation will live up to you, and people will admire you and inspire and will be inspired by you. This week, I had the very fortunate situation where a lawyer I hadn't dealt with for 15 years, so somebody prior to the foundation of Montgomery, reached out to me to introduce a client of his. And we did a video. Fortunately, I saw the email. It had landed in my junk inbox in my spam. So it's always very important to check your junk boxes, not only the inbox, because you never know where clients will appear. And I was so happy that he still remembered the services I offered. And hopefully, we're going to work together with this new client as well. And this was this was the first time I actually met him face to face, because 15 years ago, there wasn't the habit of video conferences. So we only corresponded and exchanged and interacted by email. This time, I managed to see him face to face by a video conference. So what I say is that never lose any opportunities to network as well. You never know where the next client, the next relationship will arise. Once returning from the United States from a conference, I had been a speaker. My flight, which was going from San Francisco to Miami and then Miami to São Paulo, was canceled, and I was rerouted through New York. I was really pissed off because of the extra time that it would take to get back to Brazil. But on my flight from New York to São Paulo, I sat beside the HR director of a multinational company that has had a presence in Brazil. And I told my story of how I had founded my firm. It had been just a few years after the foundation. We got along well. I like to chat, and I encourage people always to not be shy and to chat with people who are beside you. You never know what you will discover. And after many hours of chit chatting, the HR director, when she got off the plane with me, said, I'll introduce you to our general counsel to see whether there's anything we can do together. We do have another firm as counsel in Brazil, but I really liked your ethos. I liked your spirit, and I would love for our organizations to work together. And that's actually what happened. So over the years, we got more and more business from this company. then became their exclusive advisors in Brazil. And it all started because first fate to a certain degree played a role because had I not been diverted, I would never had sat beside this person. And also part of me to reach out, to be communicative, and to establish a conversation with the person sitting beside me.
That's amazing. I can see that if we were to talk here for another hour, you'd have many of those stories, and it's just incredible. But
Yes, yes.
as you said, a lot of the credit to you for putting yourself out there.
You cannot be
Thank you
shy.
very
As a lawyer, Claudio, never be shy. I think that is the main tip to the youngsters out there is to believe in yourself. If you've gone to university, you've graduated as a lawyer, you must know your stuff. So believe in yourself and don't be shy.
I love it. I love it. Well, Neil, thank you so much for taking the time to being in the podcast today to share all of
Thank you,
this.
Claudio. It's been fantastic. And I look forward to meeting you in person in Toronto later this year for the annual conference of the IBA.
That's right. That's right. I'll be there. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person too.
Likewise.
Amazing. Well, thank you all so much for tuning into today's episode. Since Neil mentioned it, if you're coming out to the IBA conference in Toronto this November, please do send a message and we'll make sure that we have a podcast meetup.